There's something quietly fascinating about people who are almost never seen without headphones. Whether they're walking through crowded streets, sitting alone in a cafe, or even working in silence, there's always music playing, like a private soundtrack to their lives. To some, it might seem like a simple habit, but psychologically, it often runs much deeper than just liking music. At its core, constantly listening to music through headphones is less about sound and more about control. In a world that feels unpredictable, overwhelming, and often intrusive, music becomes a tool for emotional regulation. These individuals are not just hearing songs, they are actively shaping their internal environment. Where others are exposed to noise, chaos, or social pressure, they are choosing what they feel, when they feel it, and how intensely. From a neuroscience perspective, music directly interacts with the brain's reward system, particularly the release of dopamine. But for frequent headphone users, this isn't just occasional pleasure. It becomes a consistent emotional stabilizer. When life feels flat, music adds intensity. When emotions become overwhelming, it softens the edges. Over time, this creates a subtle dependency, not necessarily unhealthy, but deeply ingrained. Music becomes less of a choice and more of a psychological anchor. Another layer to this behavior is the need for psychological boundaries. People who constantly wear headphones often experience the world as too much. This doesn't mean they're weak or antisocial. It usually means they are highly sensitive to external stimuli. Noise, conversations, social expectations, even small interruptions can feel mentally draining. Headphones act as a filter, a way to reduce cognitive overload without having to withdraw physically from the environment. Interestingly, this habit is often linked to introspection. These individuals tend to spend more time inside their own thoughts. Music doesn't distract them from thinking, it enhances it. A certain song can deepen reflection, trigger memories, or even help them process emotions they don't fully understand yet. In many ways, headphones create a bridge between their inner world and the external one. They are physically present, but mentally somewhere more meaningful. There's also a subtle form of emotional protection at play. Life involves constant micro-interactions, eye contact, small talk, social expectations. For some people, these interactions feel exhausting or even unnecessary. Wearing headphones sends a quiet signal. I'm not available right now. It creates a socially acceptable barrier that allows them to exist without constant engagement. This doesn't mean they dislike people. It means they are selective about when and how they connect. In fact, many of these individuals value connection deeply, but in a different way. Instead of frequent surface-level interactions, they often prefer fewer, more meaningful ones. Music, in this sense, becomes a companion that doesn't demand anything from them. It doesn't interrupt, judge, or misunderstand. It simply exists alongside them, matching their emotional state in a way that people sometimes can't. There's also a strong link between this habit and imagination. People who constantly listen to music often have vivid inner narratives. They don't just hear a song, they visualize it. They create scenarios, replay memories, or imagine alternative versions of their lives. Music becomes a trigger for mental storytelling. This is why you might see them staring out a window, completely absorbed, as if they're somewhere else entirely. In that moment, they are. But not all of this is purely introspective. There's also a performance aspect, though not in the way most people think. For some, music enhances their sense of identity. The songs they choose reflect who they are, how they feel, or even who they want to become. Listening through headphones makes this experience more personal, more immersive. It's not about sharing the music, it's about becoming part of it. This ties into a deeper psychological concept: self-regulation through symbolic environments. Instead of changing their physical surroundings, these individuals change their perceived reality through sound. A boring commute becomes cinematic. A stressful day becomes manageable. A lonely moment becomes meaningful. In a subtle way, they are constantly rewriting their experience of the world. However, there's also a quieter side to this behavior, one that isn't always talked about. Sometimes constant music is a form of avoidance. Silence can be uncomfortable because it leaves space for thoughts that haven't been processed yet. Unresolved emotions, anxiety, or even existential questions tend to surface in quiet moments. By filling that space with music, individuals can delay confronting those feelings. Again, this isn't necessarily negative. It's often a coping mechanism. But it does reveal how powerful silence can be. Another important aspect is routine. Over time, listening to music with headphones becomes part of how these individuals function. It signals transitions, starting work, walking outside, relaxing, or even going to sleep. The brain begins to associate certain songs or playlists with specific emotional states. This creates a sense of predictability, which is psychologically comforting. In an unpredictable world, even small routines can feel like stability. There's also a social misconception that people who constantly wear headphones are disconnected or uninterested in the world. In reality, the opposite is often true. Many of them are deeply aware, sometimes too aware. They notice details others miss, feel emotions more intensely, and think more deeply about their experiences. Music simply helps them manage that intensity. And then there's the question of loneliness. It's easy to assume that someone always listening to music is trying to escape being alone. But often, they're not escaping loneliness, they're redefining it. Instead of seeing solitude as emptiness, they turn it into something rich and layered. Music fills the space not as a replacement for people, but as an enhancement of their own presence. At a deeper level, this habit reflects a desire for autonomy. Choosing what you hear, when you hear it, and how it affects you is a form of control that's entirely personal. No one else dictates it. In a world full of external influences, expectations, and noise, this small act becomes surprisingly powerful. What's even more interesting is how this behavior evolves over time. For some, it starts as a simple preference, liking music during commutes or workouts. But gradually, it becomes integrated into their identity. They are not just someone who listens to music. They are someone who experiences life through it. Every memory, every emotion, every phase of life is tied to specific sounds. And if you look closely, you'll notice something subtle. These individuals often have a strong emotional memory. Certain songs can instantly transport them back to specific moments in their lives. This is because music is closely linked to the brain's hippocampus, which processes memory. Over time, their life becomes a collection of emotional soundtracks, each one representing a different chapter. But perhaps the most defining trait of people who always listen to music with headphones is this. They are constantly curating their internal world. While others passively experience their environment, they are actively shaping it. They are choosing their mood, their focus, and even their perception of reality. It's not about avoiding the world. It's about interacting with it on their own terms. And maybe that's why, if you take the headphones away, something feels slightly off. Not because they can't function without music, but because the world suddenly feels louder, harsher, and less filtered than they're used to. In the end, this habit isn't just about music. It's about creating a space where thoughts feel clearer, emotions feel safer, and the outside world becomes just a little more manageable. And once you understand that, those headphones don't look like a barrier anymore. They look more like a quiet form of self-protection, one song at a time.